Most of the difference between 2.0 and 2.1 is related to mobile devices and mobile apps, okay? So they are things like orientation. Using my phone, can I flip it sideways and vertical and the content will flow with it? Obviously, it will depend on partly on your phone settings, but does whatever you're sharing comply with that? A lot of these will seem very similar. So like form fields are identified. We already had to do that. They specifically said that you should allow autofill wherever possible now. Reflow. If you've ever had this with a PDF, when you open it on your phone and it goes, we're adjusting the size and everything so that you can read this more easily. That should work well with whatever you're posting. If you're making something accessible, it should work fine because you have actual text on the page and it can do what it has to do to make that work. Non-text contrast. This wasn't very clear before, but if you have form fields and there's a border around each field so I can tell where they end and how much room I have. I don't know what is it with websites. They like to make those borders like this light gray color you can barely even see. Those should be high contrast too. They should be held to the same standard. Text spacing. And remember, if you're making things accessible, this should be possible that people can adjust the amount of spacing between words. I'm not saying you need to literally program all your stuff to have a button on there to do that, but your content needs to be compatible with a tool or plugin that does that. Hover content. So if I'm using a mouse and I'm hovering over something, can I dismiss it? Can I get behind it? Is it going to stay up for me and I can't work around it? Maybe I can't use a mouse. And now this thing is covering half the page and I can't see it and I don't have a way to get rid of it. Also, what if I'm using a mouse, but I have a hard time with fine motor? And so me hovering over the tiny little spot that you let me hover over to get whatever it is to show, how big is that little landing area that I can actually do that with? It should be large enough that I can do that. And if I then hover over the thing that popped up, it should stay there. Keyboard shortcuts. So if you program something or your system allows for keyboard shortcuts, if they are activated by using a single letter, so you click D for, and it does something, it has to be able to be turned off. Because a single letter shortcut, maybe their screen reader uses that shortcut for something else. So you should let me remap it to a different shortcut, or you should let me turn off keyboard shortcuts. Gesture-related functions need to have an alternative. So if you post a map and the only way for me to zoom in and out is to pinch, what if I only have one hand? What if I only have one finger on one hand? How can I pinch? I can't pinch and zoom. So are there zoom buttons, plus and minus, for me to do that? Can I move the map around if I don't have a pointer? If something activates as soon as I click something, do I have an opportunity to undo that? Or, you know, a lot of things like you'll click and then like as you click, you go, I should have put there. So then you, like while you're still clicked, move off of it and it like cancels. Like that should work. Motion actuation. If your app requires me to physically move my phone around in order to do something, maybe it's one of those fancy 3D views. If the only way I can actually see the rest of the 3D content is to physically move my phone around, what if my phone is mounted to my wheelchair and I can't move my phone? Is there a way for me to move around inside of your content without physically moving my phone? If you have a status message, if you submit a form and it comes up with an error, that error needs to be accessible to a screen reader. I will say, almost everything I just said is specific to a mobile phone, right? Moving around and doing all that kind of stuff. That's phone-based stuff. I personally don't know of a single school district that has actually built their own app from the ground up and published it. They all buy an app from someone else, or They subscribe to a service that takes the content from their website and wraps it in an app. Okay? So these are just considerations. And if you get a vendor to say that, yes, it is WCAG 2.1 level A, AA certified, they should be meeting all these things and you shouldn't have to worry about it. So that's my main takeaway with the 2.0 to 2.1 difference, is that there really isn't much difference if you're not talking about a mobile app. However, I will say that most people with disabilities use a smartphone. Most of us use a smartphone. Most everyone uses a smartphone. However, they're actually more prevalent with users with disabilities because phone software vendors have made accessibility tools baked in that work better than a laptop or a PC. So you should make sure that all your stuff works on a phone. And this is not just true of people with disabilities. I am sure that you know of plenty of parents that do everything on their phone. Even if they are a perfectly capable person, they have no handicaps whatsoever. They are on their phone like 24/7. Oh, and this was the chart I talked about earlier. This is my last slide, I promise. Accessibility features by disability types. This shows you what the top 4 features are and who's using them. Obviously, built-in screen readers on a phone, the one like baked in by Apple or Google, is used by 97% of blind users, who are the yellow color. The assistant, I won't say the word, but because I don't want to activate everyone's phone, but the digital assistant in your phone is also a great way for people to get stuff done without having to literally see it or click a button, and they use it. Text to speech and speech to text are also very well used, but not quite as much as a screen reader. And like I said, I used Gemini AI to describe this chart, and it described it pretty well. It's not very large because it's only meant to be read by a screen reader, but if you're able to move it behind there, it describes the chart. And it also provided a trend. It says the overall trend is that built-in screen readers and intelligent personal assistants are the most used features across all disability groups. However, there are some variations between the different groups. AI did that. I didn't have to look at that chart and go, God, how do I describe this? I let AI do it. If I was posting this like in a document that I needed everyone to know all of the data from it, I would also get a hold of the literal data that chart was generated off of and put it next to my description so that literally all the information is available. But use the tools that you have available to you is what I will say with that. That was the last one. We're done. Yay. Thank you.